Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is Alvina from IAB Hong Kong Secretariat Office. It's our honor to have all of you here online with us today for our July webinar presented by our video committee on the topic of video survival guide in the age of COVID-19. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy at wherever you are, office or home. And here I would like to invite our committee team lead, Mr. Michael Lee from PhD, to do the opening for us. So, Michael, please join us. Maybe unmute yourself first.
Webinar 101, I'll always unmute first. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today's topic will be a survival guide for video in the age of COVID. We know that COVID has affected pretty much everyone. So today we want to bring in a collective from a panel today from the agency side, from the creative side, and from the brand side to discuss how we can adapt to the ever-changing COVID situation in Hong Kong and around the world. We want to provide the industry a perspective on what we can do from video and how we can move forward in COVID-19. And with this, we want to help give back to the community so we can improve our marketing all around. With that, I want to pass it to David, who is our moderator today.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everybody. This is David from Rudafin, and I will be moderating a panel of our very illustrious group of speakers today. So before we all begin, let me just introduce them one by one. So first off, we've got Ms. Imogen Bourke, who is Head of Strategy for PhD Media. Following Imogen, we've got Mr. Ken Hui, Creative Director for Air Concepts. And then we have Ms. Penny Davis, Director of Brand, Customer and Corporate Affairs for Bupa. And last but not least, we have Mr. Adrian Toy, former VP of Digital for Melco Resorts. A very experienced group of industry practitioners. So we're looking forward to some very interesting presentations, and I'm sure we'll all learn a lot. So with that, I'm going to invite Imogen to get us started with her own survival guide on video.
Great, thanks, David, and hi to everyone. Hope you're all surviving at home, masked up in humidity. Now, did we? Work out, Alvina? It's never any sort of presentation without some technical queries. Alvina, just to confirm, are you driving the presentation? Yes, it seems so. Okay, thank you so much, IAB, for having me along today. What I really want to go through, and I guess my perspective, is from a strategic perspective. So I really want to unlock and have some discussion with you all about the power and what we need to be thinking about in storytelling in the age of COVID. So let's firstly think about what state are we in, and you know, once upon a coronavirus, how are we feeling 6 months in as Hong Kongers? Well, it is probably no surprise, and I'm sure many of you are personally feeling this as well, that we're, in terms of our motivations and our outlook, we're feeling lost. We're not feeling optimistic about the future. And of course, Hong Kong has this 1-2 punch on us, not just from the impact of coronavirus, but of course, the social political politics that we're seeing at the moment as well. And so this is what's happening. This is what, you know, marketers and us in the communications field, this is what we're seeing and understanding in motivation. And then what are we seeing in behavior? Well, we're seeing even more adoption of digital tools and platforms. So we're really seeking digital solace. So again, I think the statistics here there is no surprise that we're spending, 70% of us are spending more time on our mobiles or on our smartphones. We're spending just under 2 hours per day on social media. And one that's certainly been interesting for us at PhD and working with clients on is this rapid acceleration around e-commerce through not being able to get out and about as much and working from home, and just the safety and convenience in that. So if we think about this just as a very generalist take on the landscape, and particularly what we've seen from how advertisers responded to us in this way, that we're not feeling great, we're feeling uncertain, and we're spending all this time on digital platforms, what did an overwhelming majority of advertisers do with this information and sort of needing to get out there and communicate with their audience and with the Hong Kong and sort of wider community? If we can jump on along. Well, what we did was we managed to tell largely the same story. And we sort of, if we're taking a critical eye and lens on what a lot of advertisers did, was we interrupted an emerging new normal with the same video ad. So I'm not sure if any of you have seen this supercut of every COVID commercial being exactly the same, but let's just take a quick look to see how some advertisers told their story and their narrative in response to COVID. If we can roll the video, Alvina, please.
People.
We're people.
People. People. People.
People. People. Family.
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 Family. Family.
Family.
Family.
Family.
Family.
Families. Families. Families.
Even now.
Especially now.
Especially now.
Right now.
Now more than ever.
More than ever.
Today, more than ever.
Today, more than ever.
In times like this.
At times like these.
During these difficult times.
In these troubled times.
Challenging times.
Trying times.
In these times of uncertainty.
During this time of great uncertainty.
During these uncertain times.
During these uncertain times.
In uncertain times.
In uncertain times. Uncertain times.
Unprecedented times.
Unprecedented times.
Unprecedented times.
This unprecedented moment in our history.
And so it goes. It's a 2-minute supercut. So I recommend, if you haven't seen this, to jump onto YouTube. The links will be available after to go and see this. Now, I completely appreciate this is an American advertisement supercut, but I think we saw this universally, that we didn't necessarily, or there wasn't the opportunity taken with a lot of advertisers to sort of cut through this. So we saw a lot of somber soundtracks. We saw a lot of stock footage, this middling earnestness of sort of, we're here for you, but what are we actually doing or sort of saying in action? And this was firmly planted in ad world. And I think this became tiring very quickly. It didn't create cut through. It didn't resonate with an audience. So if we're thinking about COVID survival guide as we move forward, because certainly this situation, unfortunately, is not leaving us anytime soon, what can we do to be better than this? If we jump to the next slide, please, Alvina. Thank you. And I firmly believe that to survive, what we need to do is we need to hero context. So what is context? And I think in terms of planning and video, that's about what are all those moments we can find to connect with people. So again, I would say no surprise to probably anyone on the call today that 71% of people are more likely to remember and respond to messages tailored to them. So how can we be crafting and honing in on personalisation? And the importance of context and being close to relevant content. So how can we find a universal narrative, but really push that to be connecting to moments that matter? And this is really important because not only does it aid cut through and memorability, but it's driving business outcomes. And I think that's super important for marketers, particularly at the moment, who are really needing to push and drive marketing and demonstrate marketing as a value and not as a cost to the business. So we can see here that if you can be as close to context as possible, you can be creating greater emotional salience, memory encoding and recall. And also, even if you're just looking to shift from a demographic targeting to a contextual targeting, behavioural targeting, that's going to drive a much stronger return on investment. So this is great, not just for sort of consumer satisfaction in and creativity in what we're presenting, but it's driving business outcomes too. So what does this mean in a planning context? And I think really, and if we think about some of the advertisements that, you know, I was sort of saying just got a bit rolled out on video. So, oh gosh, we've got to make an ad, we've got to be here for people, let's just whack it on YouTube. That's nearly sort of following the old school way of thought, which is what we used to do. Is we used to come up with a brand positioning and brand story for our brand. Then we used to work in conjunction with the advertising media agencies and come up with that advertising plan and then push it out to as many people as possible in a broadcast interruptive manner and go, are you interested? Through data, through the sophistication of planning and through the explosion of opportunities to connect with people in terms of touch points in the media landscape, we can now be better than that. We can now, and we should be, looking to existing interests and technology, looking for those behaviours, understanding the relationship between content and behaviour. On top of that, layering on cultural context, which I think, you know, even in Hong Kong, we know is very important when we're working with multinational players, that we're definitely informing in a local, locally contextual manner. And then what's the relevance to the brand? So we're really, it's a far more empathetic way of looking at the landscape and looking at a moment, and then how can your brand resolve or surprise and delight in those moments. So if we're thinking about this is a new world we're living in, and this is to, you know, survive, we've really got to drive context. At PhD, the way we do it, and we hero context, is through what we call our role of communications model. And quite simply, this is us helping identify when a brand comes to us with a business challenge and needing to resolve that through communications, is what type of communications is going to resolve that. And so what our four role of comms do is they're giving us different flavours of media behaviour, approaches to channels and types of assets that we might want to use. So as you can see here, we've got activating, which is people that are searching for information. We're going to serve them in a very simple and timely manner the information they're looking for. We have impacting, which is when communications really need to cut through and get attention and deliver key information. Then we have more affiliate type communication. So in reinforcing, it's reminding me of a brand at relevant times and enforcing those brand codes. And then there's building. So if your brand may not be known for something, or you want to be better known for something, how can you be building those associations in an emotional way to sort of create emotional resonance? So from these four roles, I thought I'd quickly take you through just 4 examples in response to COVID. We're going around the world to do this and sort of demonstrating just how by pushing context, we can move beyond every ad looking and sounding and feeling the same and living in ad world, and how we can better place that in context of reality for audiences. So this first one comes from the UK, and devastatingly for people in the UK, McDonald's actually had to close down for a couple of weeks. So this really upset both fans and probably even light buyers as well. So once it was time to open again, this is a really lovely example of activating fans to follow their cravings all the way to McDonald's. And we'll take a quick look at the creative, but what we can see here is there's inclusion of crowdsourced video, and of course, you know, they had one moment that they've probably been waiting a very long time for, to use this soundtrack, and lo and behold, they sort of found a perfect moment too. So let's play the ad, please, Alvina. So as we can see there, it has lovely, they delivered this through social, and so when people were trying to find that information or seeking that information, you can sort of see how that's a really lovely and fun and ownable way to deliver the information that yes, McDonald's is back up and running, and sort of just giving a bit more flavour to that we're here for you and we're here with you through these times. The next example is from Vietnam. Now, this is, I think, a really great example of how a government chose to sort of impact an audience with key information. So we all know that the need for heightened hygiene was super important very quickly when COVID hit. Now, you know, as a government body, they could have just sort of delivered that information in a very dry way, but rather what they chose to do with this one was harness the power of pop culture and social habits to grab attention with impact to their audience and deliver information. And so what they did, as we'll see, is they chose two of Vietnam's biggest pop stars, and they sang a pop song. So let's play the videos, and then the other one at the same time is probably best. And so what's great about this one is, you know, the pop song was so catchy. It was adopted by the youth of Vietnam with such an earworm that the two young men on the right took and then created their own TikTok dance, and then that sort of went viral as well. So just, you know, they chose to use, they first thought, how do we impact our audience? And okay, we can use video as that medium, then really driving context of what was going to be culturally relevant and resonating with their audience. If we can jump to the next slide. Thanks. This one from my hometown in Australia, and this is a great example of reinforcing. So Continental do soups and ingredients, and they sort of make cooking really easy and sort of easy 1-2 step meals. And what they did here, everyone in Australia, some poorly still, are stuck at home, and so they teamed up with a bunch of comedians and shot Facebook Lives in their own kitchens, I think most likely filmed by the comedians themselves, in these very sort of slapdash ways to just reinforce that Continental does creature comfort, simple cooking for times like this.
I don't know why they gave me the aged ingredients.
Welcome to the Continental Cook-Up.
What?
Put the stove on.
This is how I keep fit.
Yes.
Getting a bit frisky.
This is just cranberry juice.
Shut up.
Ooh, it's getting hot in the kitchen.
Mate, this looks so good.
Dad should cook for us every single night.
Let's not get carried away.
And what I love about this one is it really taps into the fact that, say, with video on this occasion, it wasn't about needing a huge production budget. It really was, here's the idea, and I can sort of even say how this happened because it's a PhD example, that it was very much us working with Continental, the brand, to say, we've got this great idea, let's just make it happen. Let's put it out on Facebook Live, and then it can be housed as owned assets. So again, it's another way and another flavour of saying we're here for you, but without that need for sort of somber soundtracks or footage or middling sort of statements. It's really driving reinforcement of the values and positioning of Continental in a very ownable way.
I don't know why they gave me the.
And then our final one for building, and I thought that this one's quite fun for building, because sometimes when we're particularly talking about building at PhD, it might be a bit more like, let's make that big 2-minute film, brand film that's very emotionally resonant, but generating emotions in people could also be humor, and it can be in a more tactical, fun way. So this is for Circle Life, which is a Singaporean telecom company, and they're all about for the people, by the people is their motto. And they came up through this great insight that maybe working from home, you are not always dressed to impress when you have to meet the boss on Zoom or on Teams. And so they came up with a filter for you for when you're on your video calls that regardless, as you can see, the gentleman on the left is not quite dressed for work, but this filter lets you don your best clothes for the meeting. And so I really like this one as well because it's video, but is it video? So again, just not being driven by the channel, but being driven by the context and driven by an idea. And for this brand, it's really to be building that value for money, and that we're really of you and of the people in a very relatable and humorous way. So if I'm to sum up what I've very quickly gone through and how we're going to survive very happily ever after in this COVID era, I would say to please, when we're thinking about video, when you're working with clients or with agency partners, that when you're thinking about an idea, context is king. Try and push beyond a platform to just not see it, and I'm sure none of us do, but as a sort of dumping ground for an ad, but to really drive context. Be led by behaviours and culture. We have, excuse me, a lot of data at our fingertips. We've got a lot of social listening. We've got just our eyes and ears around what we're seeing. So let's harness that, because that's where the richness of insight is. And then just to not lose yourself and always be identifying that clear role of communications to be able to determine channel behaviour, because hopefully, as you just saw, that was 4 quite different ways to be utilising video as a channel. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Imogen. I was actually laughing very hard with that last example, because I literally had a Zoom call with someone yesterday and he was shirtless. And it was a business meeting. Well,
so now you can send him the filter and he never needs scare you again on the video call.
I know, this is so funny. So thank you so much. That was great. So next up, we're very pleased to welcome Ken Hui, Creative Director for Air Concepts. And he's going to talk about getting your video right now. So Ken, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's an honor and pleasure to be here today. I'm Ken. I'm a co-founder and creative director of Air. We are an independent agency based in Hong Kong, and today I would love to share some tips of how to get your video right and during the pandemic time right now. Yep. Next page, please. Okay. First of all, let me share some findings to you. I bet you all now keep following the pandemic news and new cases number every moment. And indeed, the pandemic does push us to consume more information online. Studies shows that 80% of consumers have consumed more video content since the coronavirus outbreak than they did before, while only 8% of them thinks brands should stop advertising during the pandemic period. Therefore, we should actually keep making videos for our brands at the moment. And indeed, it also means we are now having a bigger audience base, and it's actually a good chance to raise your brand's awareness. Yet, back to the topic today, it's a good time to do more video now, but we just have to make sure we do it properly. Next page, please. So, okay, the first thing is we have to ask ourselves what's the goal of your video? I'm sure every marketer will have their target and objective to meet. During the pandemic, it's a tough time, but brands still have to survive. So perhaps your objective could be like increasing your online sales, retaining your fan base, let them know you're standing with them, or maybe showing your support to the society or the people's in need. Or maybe you've got a really good product or service that can fit the people's current needs now. So such as your hygiene or healthcare products. So no matter what message you want to say, but just please make sure you are clear on what your video is meant to achieve during such special period. Let me explain further. We can see all videos during the pandemic are fallen into these 3 categories. So the first one is sharing emotional support. For example, maybe you would like to share some joy or some hope to your audience. Let them know you're standing with them during such hard time, and hopefully you will be the first brand coming up in their mind when the market recovers. But be realistic. Sharing emotional support probably can raise your brand awareness and popularity, but just don't expect it may bring you some short-term return in sales, since now there are really lots of restrictions in life that definitely limit the purchasing power. And the second one is showing your tangible help. There are lots of good cases in the city. Brands are offering special treats to the groups with needs, or rewarding the groups that helping the city to fight with the coronavirus. That's really a generous move, and it's another kind of way to gain your brand popularity. But again, make sure you're clear on what your goal is and expectation. Control your expectation. Just don't turn a charity campaign into a product promotion, as that may bring you some negative effect. Thirdly, it's not about right or wrong. Thirdly, it's not about right or wrong, but we can see some brands saying can really do the business as usual. That's what I mentioned. If your product or service can really help the current situation and make everyone live happier, your brand should really promote your product in your video right away. In a nutshell, I just want to highlight 2 questions. If you want to show your care in your video, please make sure it's speaking from your brand's heart. It can be like, hey, it can't be like, hey, we care about you during the pandemic. So our car is fast and great, buy it. It just makes sense as speaking in line with your brand tone before. On the other hand, if you want to highlight your product in your videos, please make sure that fits your customer demand at the moment. It's needless to say, now the general consumer demand is quite low. So just don't make your audience feel you are pushing jargon to them. And in the following slides, I will share some good videos cases from different brands, and we can see how they convey these 3 topics in a proper way. Okay, so to share your emotional support in video, be authentic is of the utmost importance. Make sure you are still talking in your usual brand tone during the pandemic. Don't suddenly change the way you talk. Let me show you an example. The Oreo brand. Next page. What comes up in your mind when you see Oreo? If Oreo suddenly says, oh, our cookie can make your kids grow stronger and able to boost up the immune system, it just sounds a bit something to you. It's a bit quite hilarious to me. Oreo should always stay playful. Next page.
Mom used to say go out and play, but inside's the place we gonna play today. Not just the little ones, grown-ups too. Checking the world with a different view. Let's stay connected, one with the flow. Let's stay playful. Oreo.
Stay home, stay playful. That's a good example showing how to share the emotional support in a proper brand tone of voice. All right, next one. Next, be caring. Your brand may want to do something to the society or let people know how supportive you are. Let's take a look at the beer brand example. You can imagine how big the sponsorship from the beer brand to sports brand every year. But due to the COVID-19, lots of the sports game or they are postponed or being banned. So can we change the support from sports team to another team? Let's see another example.
This buds for the Blues, the Reds, and the Warriors. This buds for the Magic, the Athletics, the Giants, and the Jazz. This bud's for the trailblazers, the Braves, the Yankees, and the Angels. This bud's for the home team.
That's quite touching, huh? All right, okay, next one. Okay, if you want to feature your product in your video during the pandemic, maybe you don't really want to make it too hard sell or irrelevant to consumer. So please make sure you understand your consumers' needs well. Let me take your Apple's video as an example. From my experience of working with the Apple brand, the team are actually really super persistent in taking care of every single details in their video. I remember the first TVC I worked for Apple, they gave me a really remarkable memory. That was for the very first iPad. I remember, we are featuring, there's a scene, we are featuring a girl using the iPad during the FaceTime in a cafe. I remember our team, we are requested to make sure all the food and drinks written on the food menu have to be authentic, have to be referenced to Hong Kong people. But indeed, the whole food menu is just a really tiny spot size in the whole screens. But they really care. Because they care every single detail, so they're really concerned letting their audience know that Apple really understand their audience. They really know what's reference to the audience, to the consumer. So please just, they don't want to show anything that is something sounds weird, sounds irrelevant in that market. So I can, by seeing this news spot from Apple during the pandemic, I can just imagine how challenging for the team to prepare the content. And that really can show Apple's understanding to the consumer. Let's have a look.
The possibility of bringing us together in ways none of us would have been able to predict or expect.
I'm so small, said the mole. Yes, said the boy, but you make a huge difference. That's good. Okay, there are two more tips. Be flexible. I'm sure lots of marketers are now suffering from the instability, and your market plan may have to keep changing, or even we are not allowed to do the shooting as usual, since we are now all practicing the social distancing. But that doesn't mean we can't do anything. The next one, I want to show you the example from Bourke Sweat. The sports drinks brand will do the brand video every year with a big group of young people, showing the energy and showing how the drinks support to level up their power. But this year, due to the pandemic, they can't do the proper shooting. So what they have done, they make a flexible trick. They get all the students to shoot their own video by their phone at home, and
Then they get the professional editor and musician to make a great video, combine all the pieces together. Let's see how they did. So you see, even the video shot by your own phone can be great. Sometimes we just have to be flexible, but that's not the end of the story. I think they took this video about like maybe in the early of this year, but after a few months, just last week, actually they have maybe the condition in Japan is getting more control now. So they have just published a popular that indeed that show us. There can be some, we can have some hope, means our creativity and efforts maybe won't be wasted if your campaign may still able to come alive again when things get resumed. Let's see the next one. Oh, go back, sorry. Yep. Yeah, here I just captured the short version one, and if you want to see the proper one, you can just browse them and browse the vocabulary threads, and I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. So, okay, next one. Next page. Thank you. So, last but not least, smart spending. I bet most of marketers are facing cuts in marketing budget now, but that won't limit our creativity. Let me show you a great example from the beer brand again. Yeah, next page. Yeah, believe me, I'm not a drinker. Yeah. So actually, 13 years ago, they have done a really successful video campaign, WhatsApp, and now during the pandemic, they just rerun it with a little trick, turning it into a COVID-19 edition. Let's have a look how they make it. Next page. Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, who? What's up?
Nothing, B. In quarantine, having a bud. What's up with you?
Nothing. Quarantining, having a bud. True.
What's up? What's up?
Yo, who's that?
Yo, pick up the phone.
Hello? What's up? What's up? Yo, where's Dookie?
Yo, Duke. Yo.
What's up?
What's up?
So you okay, B?
I'm good, B. Just quarantining, having a bud. Thanks for checking in.
It's a really funny one, right? So I bet most of the marketers or creative have seen the version 13 years ago, and now you see how they play this trick to make them come alive again, but in a COVID-19 edition. Okay, so here's the summary of today, and I hope all these tips can help a bit for you to plan for your upcoming video campaign. And I hope everyone enjoyed the talk and stay safe. And Yeah, next. If you want to discuss your video with us, feel free to drop us a line. And thank you very much today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. So next up, we've got Ms. Penny Davis, Director of Brand, Customer, and Corporate Affairs for Bupa. And Penny is here to talk about the much celebrated Bupa Hero campaign. So over to you, Penny.
Thank you, David. Assuming you can all hear me okay. And big thanks to Imogen and Ken as well for sharing your tips. Hopefully the campaign I go through lives up to some of the tips that you've shared. So thank you everyone for dialing in today, hopefully from the safety of your homes. Today I'm talking about finding a hero during COVID-19, and I want to share a bit about being in a healthcare company during a global healthcare crisis, what that sort of has meant for us as a brand and as marketers, and talking a bit about why video has been our go-to during this time. So thanks, Elvina. So the three takeaways I'm going to touch on today is, the obvious one. We all know health is everything to everyone right now. My kind of guiding force for my colleagues and friends in the marketing world: be confident, bold, and a little bit brave at the moment. And then I guess what we learned from our campaign: connect through a universal human truth, but you need to stand out with your own signature. And I'll talk about what Bupa's has been. So for those of you who aren't too familiar with Bupa, we're a global healthcare company here in Hong Kong. Like most other markets, we have a really strong medical or health insurance business. And we also provide direct healthcare. So in Hong Kong, Quality Healthcare is one of the largest private clinical networks. I guess what's different about Bupa is, firstly, we're not a listed company. We don't have shareholders, so all our profits are reinvested into health and care services. And secondly, as a result, our purpose means a lot to us. So our purpose is to help people live longer, healthier, happier lives. And I'm going to talk a little bit about healthier and happier lives throughout this campaign. Thanks, Elvina. So just to give you some background, before COVID-19, so let's go back to last year, in Hong Kong, there were kind of two clear gaps we saw in the medical insurance market. Firstly, no surprises, the cost of healthcare. It's certainly an issue in every country, and Hong Kong is not alone in that. So we've got great innovation in the healthcare space, but obviously to make those new healthcare services and treatments available, it costs a lot to access them. But secondly, even last year, there was a real gap when it came to mental health support. So we know that mental health is a growing concern in Hong Kong and is perhaps a little bit behind other markets when it comes to people understanding mental health of all its forms and how to get support. And no insurer was covering that. So we really wanted to fill that gap. Thanks, Alvina. So our product that we developed last year and was ready to pitch to market early this year was to solve those problems. So key benefits of the product are around an outstanding annual limit to cover you, full treatment for cancer, which is a huge concern to many people in Hong Kong, and most importantly, mental health coverage. So being the first to market, providing a network and a 24/7 mental health hotline, because knowing where to go is often the first step and the hardest step. So next slide, thank you. We're ready and raring to go with our campaign to launch our Bupa Hero product and therefore Bupa Hero campaign to market in February and March. Our objectives were very much around our positioning as being, a real true healthcare expert in the insurance market and not just a general financial services company like most of our competitors. We really wanted to drive acquisition around this product and therefore increase market share. So all great intentions, and we developed the creative. That's okay, next slide, thank you. We developed the creative off the back of that idea. So touching on a few of the points that both Ken and Imogen have made, really being insight-led, and we really wanted to hit on that universal human truth around you know, people in the family unit, and this time particularly looking at mothers in Hong Kong especially, but all around the world, are juggling so many things at once. They are, you know, honestly the superheroes, but even superheroes need protection and need support sometimes. So developing on that insight, we wanted to stick with that Bupa tone, which is being a healthcare company that really understands what the reality of daily life and healthcare means to people. So, you know, health is not allowing you to run a marathon or achieve huge goals. It's about being with your family and, you know, when you've been to the hospital, getting home and seeing your kids. So we wanted to make sure the tone of the creative really matched what we believe healthcare and health means. We wanted a really strong visual device. So for Bupa, we hadn't been in the market above the line for actually a few years. We've relied really heavily on digital and social marketing. And so having a really strong visual cue through video and then into other channels was going to be really important for us and be enduring for this campaign. So we developed this creative concept with our agency partner Secret Tour, and we were super excited, right? And then what should happen, next slide, but sorry, it's the next slide. So our creative was ready to go, and then of course the global pandemic hit. So we're a healthcare company. We're sitting in the middle of a global pandemic, having quality healthcare clinics on the front line every day, having insurance customers calling us for help, meant that as a business, we were obviously hit with a lot of things to do, a lot of other priorities that were pretty immediate. And, you know, certainly we had to make sure that if we spoke about anything, if we put any advertising out there, it had to be right. We had to nail it. Elvina, if you could go on to the next slide. And one after that, thank you. So, you know, I guess health is not just everything to us at Bupa every day. It's, I'm sure, to everyone on the line right now, it's completely disrupted your lives. So whether or not you are connected to the healthcare industry through your work or through your family, I'm sure, you know, you're worried about your own health, your family and your friends' health. You're worried about what happens if you get sick, if you need to get tested, you know, what support you have, what coverage you might have. And so, you know, it's a very real fear. And as a healthcare company, if we're going to speak, we have to be relevant and we have to tonally get it right. And we learned that pretty quickly, I have to say, in a number of markets. So I'm going to share an example from Australia. Thank you. This is an example from one of our social media agencies who are helping us. We were doing our usual advertising, paid advertising in social channels. Now, just like Hong Kong, Australia went through a toilet paper shortage. I'm sure we all remember that. I definitely panic bought a few extra toilet paper rolls. But in Australia, this ad went up in early March, you can see. Australia was just feeling the heat of this, and you know, it's a bit cheeky, it's a bit in line with Australian humour, it's relevant, so we've got context there, but then it got picked up and got pretty trashed. So if you go to the next slide, there's a comment there from the CEO of the Consumer Watchdog in Australia, really slamming Bupa for making light of the situation, and effectively arguing that we shouldn't be trying to profit from people's anxiety at a really, really difficult time. So, you know, it was really obvious for us in Hong Kong that any activity we were going to go ahead with, you know, video was going to be the answer, because we had to have a platform that we could tell the story, convey a real story, convey the right tone. So whilst it was a great opportunity for, you know, a health insurer to talk about the importance of health and the right cover, we had to get it right because all eyes were on us. Next slide, thank you. So with that, you do need a little bit of feeling of confidence and being bold and brave. So I think for us, we had to be sure that we had something to say and something that people were ready to hear. So I know for a lot of other advertisers in Hong Kong and around the globe, we saw people pull back and pause on spend, whereas we knew that we had a campaign ready to go, and actually the tone and the product was exactly what the market needed. So we're going to next play the video, which is really our hero story, and then hopefully you'll all see that we got it a little better than the toilet paper ad. So we'll see if the video plays.
我要講一個 Bupa Hero 嘅故事，佢有好多超能力㗎。
喂，做乜搞咁耐啊？跌咗落廁所啊你？
每朝早佢一定準時起身，
仲唔快啲去食早餐？
跟住咧變完身就出去做任務啦。佢每一日都要打好多個 proposal， 仲要成日打怪獸。不過有時咧。佢有好多秘密武器㗎，佢可以一邊拖地一邊跳健身舞。可唔可以摸下都好靚喎！佢好多 fans 㗎，佢晚晚都會講故仔俾我聽。跟住咧，
跟住就留翻聽日再講啦。Good night。
不過有一次俾我見到，原來 Bupa Hero 都會喊㗎。自從嗰次之後，佢嘅能量好似越嚟越少咁，成日都心情好差，仲要發脾氣。終於有一日，
跟住咧
就留翻聽日再講啦，因為媽咪聽醫生話好好咁休息。
跟住之後嘅故事由 Bupa 繼續護航，全新 Bupa Hero 自願醫保計劃，為你提供私家病房級別保障，每年最多賠足3000萬，連癌症治療，包括化療、標靶藥都可以全數賠償。仲有全港首設嘅情緒健康門診網絡，同24小時情緒解碼熱線，無論身心健康都全面照顧好。每一個 hero 都總有佢要守護嘅理由，而能夠守護每一個香港人，就係 Bupa 最大嘅成就。Bupa for every hero， 揾我哋傾下。
Thank you. So I'm sorry for those who can't understand it. We have an English subs version which we should be in the deck when it's shared. But hopefully, you know, a lot of you feel that we were obviously able to convey a huge amount. That video got huge traction, and obviously it's a starting point for us to kick off a large integrated campaign across a number of different channels. I guess what's interesting is the reliance on video to launch and then obviously help with our out of home. So here are some examples across Hong Kong. And at a time when, like I said, a lot of advertisers were pulling back, we were ready to go and certainly took you know, those spots as soon as we thought that the climate in Hong Kong was okay and people were open to seeing this sort of advertising again. If you could go to the next slide, thank you. So, you know, we're really pleased with the results. In particular for us, you know, the recall and the positive sentiment that we saw was fantastic, and it's really allowed us to launch a platform to talk quite directly about the product at a time when, you know, if we didn't get it right, it was really going to go wrong. So we're really pleased with that. Next slide, thank you. So I guess the last thing I want to touch on is we used that universal human truth. That was true before Corona, which was really about the importance of, you know, all heroes still needing, you know, care and support at any time, and obviously not just physical health but mental health too. That support's really important. And so whilst we were connecting with a pretty typical story, that idea underneath, I think what is most important that we had our own signature and stamp through it that would create impact. So for us, there were sort of two ways. One was really that visual story. So you saw that through some of the other executions. So really strong visuals, really strong use of colour and design. And we've used that and we'll continue using that for some time. And obviously for us, that creates high impact and recall at a time when, as I said, we hadn't really been, high in the market in terms of share of voice for some time. But the second important thing was having a signature that was really meaningful, and that really is around mental health, so mental well-being and resilience. And we know out of COVID-19 that is really the emerging health concern for Hong Kong and for a lot of other countries. It's not just the physical, but now it really is mental health. And that is an area that we're very focused on and passionate about. So through the next slide, thank you. We've continued that theme through all our activity. Alvina, if you can move to the next slide, thank you. So we've used video in different ways to focus on healthier and happier over the last few months during COVID-19. So in March, we launched a Stay Fit at Home campaign using filters through Instagram and also sharing on Facebook with KOLs, helping people to use filters and have ideas to stay fit and healthy, which has been really popular, again touching a lot on stress and anxiety. Moving on to April, our Bupa HealthFest launched with online streaming with Move, kicking off with a concert and leading into a month long of activities for people to really use at home. So focus particularly on family, mental and physical health. We had a lot of trainers, personal trainers, art therapy and other classes available for our members and the public, and also some special community groups that usually can't access these sort of resources. And then finally in May, we launched an internal program, volunteering program for our staff, again using video and focusing on mental health to connect our employees and their families who have been working from home for a long time, and a lot of the kids of our staff are starting to feel quite isolated, connecting them with new pen pals, so new friends, so older Hong Kong people who are in aged care homes and haven't had visitors. We've been able to use video to create new connections and therefore hopefully tackle some of those feelings of isolation. So I guess to wrap up, for us, health is always everything, but we really have to acknowledge it is for everyone right now. So, to Imogen's point about context, if you are going to be relevant, you need to truly be so and do that authentically. But to Ken's point, if you're still selling products and customers need them now, then continue to do that, but with the right tone and being true to your brand. So you have to be brave and continue, because we know there's a lot of pressure for us and our businesses to continue doing well. And then finally, that universal human truth as your story is always so important, but you must have your own signature. So for us, it's that really bold visual style so that we've got recall at a time when people are watching a huge number of videos and a huge amount of content each day. We want to stand out, but we want to stand out for something meaningful. And for that's really for healthier and happier lives. So thank you for having me, David. Really appreciate it, and thank you. Look forward to any questions.
Thank you so much, Penny. That was really topical during these times when everyone's worrying about their mental as well as the physical health. So with that, we're on to our last but certainly not least speaker, Mr. Adrian Toy, former VP of Digital for Melco Resorts. And Adrian's going to share with us some of his views on the evolving use of video. So Adrian, over to you.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you to share some what's happening over this period of time. So talking about the evolving use of video, in particular during this time of coronavirus. Next, please. Thank you. So as you all probably know, and everyone, all the previous speakers have mentioned, the use of video has accelerated. And I'm sure you all been involved and even seen some of these. There's a lot more dance challenges. So, TikTok, for example, this lady here is Charli D'Amelio. She is the top TikTok blogger in the world. So P&G as a brand involved her to do a TikTok dance for social distancing. So they did a social distance dance, which then sparked a lot of other dances, which other people have showed. For example, Imogen showed the one about the one in Vietnam with the hand washing, and also choir. The whole concept of using video to do a choir together. So it all started with a coronavirus rhapsody you may have seen, and there's a whole bunch of others. And is pleased to see that Canon showed one that how Hokari took that idea and actually used that to make an ad. So another way of using video. And there's other challenges. You may have seen football stars juggling toilet paper. They leverage the trend of the shortage of toilet paper, and then they use that as a message to tell people that there's no need to hoard toilet paper. Live streams. Live streams have been around for a long time actually, but all of a sudden you've seen a big rise. In fact, from Social Baker research, you see that over this quarter 2 versus quarter 1, you've seen a 120% increase on Facebook Live globally. So I'm sure that's not too different in Hong Kong either. And there's been a rise of how-to videos. So as a marketer, you've probably been asked, well, all these videos out there, what are we going to do about it? And I'm sure I've been asked that before. And so do you just do a bunch of these videos? So the key thing is there's content overload. I'm sure you've all been sent and shared all these videos. Every single day there's webinars such as these. So do you participate? Do you watch them? My message is don't just do a video because everyone else is doing it. I'm sure it's easy to do now that you can do that by yourself without having an agency, but does it fit into your strategy? So next page, Alfina. Thank you. So hopefully you all have a video strategy. For those of you who don't, this is a strategy that was developed by Google called the Hero Hub Help strategy, or some people say hygiene instead of help. It's a strategy that should help determine what type of video content you should have. And obviously you should have a pyramid where on the top you have hero content, potentially high impact videos that are large scale, meant to be big moments, could be a big event or big video ad to drive broad awareness. The hub content in the middle is content that you should be pushing regularly. So every day, every week, every month, around passion points that your brand owns. And then lastly, the helping hygiene content. Content that your core target audience is looking for. It's sought after content. And typically they would call this pull content. So as this model was initially developed for YouTube, it's how you actually drive the YouTube search to allow consumers to find your content. So it's optimized for intent and interest. So, but what happens now where we're facing lower budgets, we also have filming restrictions where you can't gather too many people together, you can't be on the streets, you can't have all these people to film, and at the same time, you need to be agile. You need to prioritize and determine what frequency of content. Next, Alvina, next page, please. So I'm going to use this framework to talk about some videos that people have been doing that fits into these 3 categories. So first is hero videos. Next page. So this is one. So this one is done in this is Carlsberg, initially done in Denmark, and then rolled out across the world. So this one is in particular is Malaysia. If you can play the video, Alvina. So I've only shown the short form videos. You can actually see the long form videos at the URLs. But basically, the whole idea is adopt a keg. So if you drink a beer of Carlsberg, a bottle of Carlsberg, and scan the barcode, then basically you start filling up a virtual keg. So, and then you nominate your favorite bar. So as you drink more bottles, your keg fills up. And when things get better, you can actually go to your favorite bar and basically redeem your your keg of beer. So you actually get some free beer. Next page. Oh, next page. Yeah, so we did, oh, sorry, go back to the previous page. So the production cost in this is very low. There's no people in there. It's just a wide angle shot that was zoomed in. And it was also a purposeful message to, support people to stay at home and support the local bar as well. Next page, thanks. So this one's by Nescafe in Hong Kong. If you can play the video.
係時候醒神啦！撐咗咁耐工，終於有回報啦！每一罐咖啡背後嘅努力，而家都更有價值。因為 Nescafe 每罐送你 Asia Miles， 仲個禮拜有2萬里數抽獎。
So this is a video that Nescafe had launched just in June. It's about a girl cycling to work, and on the way she helps people along the way. By sharing I guess a packet of Nescafe or can of Nescafe, and it ends with a message refreshing your day and a value add where for every can of Nescafe you drink, you get some Asia Miles points. This campaign, as I understood, was meant to be launched in April, but it actually got moved to June until things got better. And the whole idea was that to support the consumers so that they can get to travel again by providing them Asia Mile points. If you click on it. One more time. Not on the video. Okay, so they also use anime. So this is high reach. This reached over 2 million people at the time. They use anime. This lowered the cost of production. Because a lot of the shots in there, the long form video had lots of different iconic shots within Hong Kong. That was done to avoid all the filming difficulties. This anime genre was actually done really nicely. It's the same group, anime production house that done a lot of the Japanese anime as well. So it's very beautiful as well. And is a very purposeful message during these tough times. So this one's from Harbour City. I don't have a video, but many of you probably saw this. This was celebrity Sam Hui. They did a live stream very early in I think in March, end of March, and they did on top of Harbour City. This got over 2.5 million live views at the same time, and they were doing a donation to local sound engineers who had lost their jobs. So again, this is a property mall company that's really supporting celebrities and supporting a good cause. Subsequently, some other properties had done some other similar concerts as well on top of their properties. Next is Trip.com. They've run just recently, well, last month, basically a flash sale. So again, they basically did a live flash sale where they did live at night. I think it was 8, 9 o'clock at night, where they brought along a radio DJ and actually the managing director of Trip.com together, and then did a live flash sale. So they showed both live content and pre-recorded videos, and the key benefit is they provided limited time offers, providing staycations. Again, very timely as things were getting better. It was trying to encourage people to buy some staycation. Again, very nicely done. I think one of the first in that category to launch that. So let me move to, I guess, hub videos. Next page. So this is K11, another shopping mall on Kowloon side. So what they did was they started to bring offline experiences virtually. Obviously they saw their traffic decrease going to the shopping mall, but they were still doing a lot of things as a mall around a few key passion points, which is music, art, and food. So they had regular music events pretty much every week to 2 weeks at their property. So they still had them going on. So they started doing live streams of that during for the last few months. They also had regular art and design discussions and talks with famous artists, visiting artists, and different pieces of artwork. So again, they did some live stream and food. So you think, well, this is a shopping mall. They don't need to do live for everything. They did it because they want to show their authenticity. So, you know, when you do things live, there's no room for error. Whatever happens, happens. So, and I think, you know, it's very brave of them to embark on this journey. Next, thanks. Peninsula, another, you know, famous hotel brand where for their core audience that really like going there. You probably know the band. They have a band there that's quite popular. They play in the lobby. They play in this lounge, the Salon de Ning restaurant. So again, they brought the offline experience virtually to the consumers where you could not visit. And they started to do what they call the Peninsula playlist, and they featured different things on that, you know, that you would normally visit at Peninsula to drive a deeper engagement with the consumers. Next, thanks. You know, this pure fitness, most of you would know, is a fitness gym. Obviously, all the gyms are closed. So what they've been doing now is they're doing free classes both on Facebook and Instagram. Again, you know, you can't go to a class anymore, but they are now doing this regularly. Every day they've got classes both on Facebook and Instagram. You know, they use multiple platforms. Very interesting. I talked to them, and why run all these different platforms? Well, you know, they do find that they do have different audiences. You know, the audience on Instagram is not as big as Facebook, but definitely have a more engaged and a younger age audience on Instagram. So I think that some of the challenges they face is maintaining consistent quality with so many different trainers, and also some of their trainers are not interested in actually doing these content because it's difficult, you know, and not everyone wants to be on live. Next, thanks. Helping videos. Next. So you've all seen them. A lot of brands are doing these cooking classes. You know, everyone has to eat at home now. In particular, now you can't even go to restaurants. So how to cook videos are very well sought after. I chose this one from Shangri-La in particular because, you know, obviously Shangri-La is a big hotel brand, very well known for their good restaurants. So they have their chefs featured, and on the right visual you can see that show the playlist. So a lot of brands do these, but they don't organize their the videos. And I think it's very important if you're on, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, to have a playlist, because once I've seen one video, I want to go back and look for the next one. I don't want to have to go through all your different posts. So I think that's just a tip for those who are looking at these type of videos. Next, thanks. Cathay Pacific, obviously we cannot fly, and a lot of people are very concerned about how to fly and when to fly. So if we can play that content on the left, Alvina. So this is a concern, I guess, from consumers where, you know, everyone's asking when should we fly again. So I think very timely, you know, with this hashtag till we fly again, to inspire people that, you know, this virus will finish one day and we will be able to fly. They had a very low budget. They pretty much do this as cheap as possible without going around filming. So they use both user-generated content and some original content there. Obviously all quite low end in terms of easy to produce, and they stitched it all together using static photos into a video. So I think that was nicely done. On the right, Cathay Care. There's no video that you can look up online, but obviously everyone's very concerned about safety and health procedures of Cathay, so they branded that Cathay Care. So I think very nicely done in terms of to let people know that, you know, they have the right procedures. Next, thank you. Lululemon. So I think this is, they run a retail store network. People can't get into, the shops anymore. So I was scrolling on IG, and on the left-hand picture, you see this ad in IG story saying, well, I was looking for some shorts, and this visual came up and said, well, why don't you come and talk to one of our digital educators? So, okay, why not? Let's check this out. And then you click on it, you go on the web, and you're able to book an appointment with a shop assistant. So you click on it, and then you click on it, you book a time, you go in, and you do a live Zoom call with this person. You see me on the right there. This is actually about a week and a half ago. You see the girl on the top, she's actually in the Lululemon store, although they can probably do the branding a little bit better because I couldn't tell that she was in the store. And on the right-hand side, you see the chats, and basically I asked her about shorts, and she would recommend and guide me through to booking buying some shorts online. So, I think it was a test and learn initiative that they're doing. So again, I think a nice way to engage a consumer. Next page. So cosmetics. So live streaming to sell cosmetics, you've all probably heard and seen a lot. In China, this is very, very popular. But in Hong Kong, we're only just starting to do this. So it's taken this COVID situation to instigate the brands to do that. But the issue is then, well, all the brands are doing it. You see here, Schumacher, L'Oreal, Clarins, I'm sure every other brand's doing it. So how do you differentiate? So I think on the left, you see the one there, they have a celebrity host. So they brought in celebrity host. The one in the middle, L'Oreal, they've done live demonstrations. And they've also done interaction engagements, and also providing value offers. So limited time offers during the live stream. So again, if you're in an industry that is quite competitive, you need to start thinking of different ways to drive live streams and this whole idea of shop attainment. Next, thank you. So just to summarize, I think, video is really great during this COVID situation. Is everyone's reinventing, re-looking at how to use video. But I think more importantly is to review your Hero Hub help content mix. Where do you need to do more? Where do you need to do less? Be conscious of meaningful messaging. I think everyone's talked about that because the context is very important at this sensitive time. If you have offline experiences, try and bring them virtually if you haven't done so already, because everyone else is trying to. So use this time wisely to do that. Video doesn't have to be expensive. Whether you do anime or using photos or using UGC, I think there's different ways to explore that. I think lastly is be agile. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so you need to keep testing and learning. So that's my last message. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Adrian. That was really, really helpful. And I think everybody learned a lot today. So very happy to have all of you here. So we're going to go into the Q&A session now. Before we do that, just wanted to remind everybody that we've prepared a very useful video survival guide for everyone. And this is compiled by the video committee at the IAB. So I think Elvina will be sharing a download link at the end of the session today. So be sure to stay on and download this very useful guide. And I believe that we have a Q&A panel that everyone can post questions on. And as a matter of fact, I can see a few questions that have already been posted, which is great. So before we get into the questions, I have one question for all of our panelists here today, because we have right now, I think, just a little under 100 attendees, and it's a very good mix of agency and in-house people. And a very common question that we have when we have this group of this mix is, how do you translate really strong creative ideas for videos into execution? Because I think for those of us on the agency side, a very common problem we have is great creative ideas that for whatever reason don't end up being executed well. And so I thought it might be good to maybe derive some learnings from this group here. Imogen, do you want to try to take this one?
Sure. Thanks, David. I think, that's great ideas can come from anywhere, and really what we've seen and great examples of, I think, over the last hour is sometimes a bit more the core of that idea being creative in terms of the production values, or maybe the core of that creativity actually coming from the media. So I think probably in essence, it's about having a really strong relationship between media and creative, if they are indeed separate agencies. And I should probably say as well, with your marketer, it really is a partnership. And I'm sure even Penny could attest to that as well when she was working on her Bupa campaign, that it really would have been a team effort. And I think the best way in essence is to have a core campaign idea that's channel agnostic, because that will allow you to really test if it has legs and then can be delivered in different contexts. So I think I'm just trying to look back over the examples. Someone like Oreo, that was a great example of their core being playful and playfulness, and that they were able to sort of pivot that and give that in the context of what that means at home, or even with Picari Sweat in terms of sort of that they were obviously driving for engaging youth, and so again they found that context to be able to deliver that idea. So I think probably it's not any one stakeholder running too far down the path and sort of having really open communication and dialogue, because I think it really is a team effort. And I think less and less we're finding that, you know, one sort of partner can run away with it completely, because that's where it will fall down, because then there are budget constraints. So you're wanting to make sure that it's effectively hitting an audience so it can be driving business outcomes. And again, I think, you know, that's so important at this time, that we're demonstrating marketing as a value, not a cost to the business.
Great, thank you. That was a very good view from the agency. Penny, do you have anything to add to that with a view from the in-house client?
Oh, I mean, I would agree with everything Imogen said there. I think, you know, if I talk about the campaign I took everyone through, that was very much the case. So I think I talked a lot about how video was important for us to convey a long form message. But as you can see, the idea really bubbled down to something very simple that was going to have legs, as Imogen said, in a range of channels. And I think absolutely it's a partnership. And in my experience, you know, working with PhD, when I worked in previous workplaces and other media agencies as well, I think it's so important that your media, you know, team are on board with your creative team as well, so that you absolutely road test all concepts and really play around with it. I think if you're missing one of those three elements, you're probably going to fall over somewhere.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to the audience questions. So I think there are two questions here that are fairly similar. So the first question is, how should SMEs plan for video with limited budget? And the other question is, with everyone now doing videos, it's getting incredibly cluttered. How does one break through the clutter and stand out with limited budgets? So who wants to take this one? Do more with less, basically. Adrian, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think it's I think what's really important as a brand now is to be able to let go. You know, I think, you know, every brand has all these guidelines and you want perfection, you want high-end quality, but we're in a situation where consumers understand that the environment's tough, and as much as they enjoy high-quality content, they also can appreciate, I guess, you know, lower-end quality. So I think that's one. So not to get too hung up about it, but I think secondly is, what does your brand really stand for? What is the purpose? What's the messaging? That is the most important. Forget about how good quality, whether you have a good set, whether you have a good celebrity or not, the messaging is really the key. I think someone mentioned context is king. I think it was Imogen mentioned that. So I think that's, if anything, stick with that first and then work out how to do the video afterwards. So I think Cathay example, you know, Till We Fly Again is a good example where, of course, they want to do a high quality content, but they had a limited budget, limited time. They need to get the message out quickly, and that's more important.
Thank you. Imogen, do you agree?
Yes, definitely. I think, you know, and in saying all this, we're making it all sound really easy. And I think I want to make a nod that it's really hard, and it's hard work to sort of, you know, be going out and trying to find that core insight or find what your brand wants to align with. And I guess it is trying to find that clear space. You know, another thing at PhD we talk about a lot is challenger archetype. So we're often, you know, sort of thinking about what category are you really playing in? What are those category tropes of that category? And is there clear space to sort of change them up a bit? Because often we know, you know, brands sort of get a bit too far away from a consumer need. But I think it was a really interesting point that Penny brought up with the toilet paper post of social with Bupa, that was a misstep, yet that shouldn't unravel sort of being bold or different. So I think it was actually a great example of sometimes it may not always hit the mark, but that's okay. You can sort of just pick up, and I think audiences are forgiving if you then come back from that. But I think as well, you know, it's sort of a hard one going if we don't have video. You certainly want sustained investment, but hopefully we've seen a lot of different examples of how you can use a video platform beyond, I guess, the 30-second, 15-second, even 6-second slot to sort of surprise and delight. So yeah, I think it would be about chasing, is it a behavioural moment, a cultural context, or even something, you know, I just love that Singapore telecom one with the suit, you know, that really simple, really tactical idea, but just a very surprise and delight moment. And I'm sure in Singapore would have driven a lot of earned media for them. So I guess, yeah, that's the other way to go about it, is try and drive positive earned conversation for your communications.
David, can I add something? I think the way you know, thinking about it from a brand's perspective, we do, you know, have ever increasing, sorry, not increasing, I wish, ever diminishing budgets. I think the way that I would look at kind of content, and it's pretty basic, but certainly is in terms of value. So, you know, we talk about creativity and being flexible and kind of giving stuff a go and not being perfect. And I think that's great. You know, the value in your video or your content might be entertainment, and the fact that you've hit on something unusual and something fun or providing, you know, some kind of real tangible value in creating a suit for someone, like the Singapore example. But I think if you're backing up again your video with value of some sort, it is all about value exchange, and people are forgiving, as Imogen said, if you are having a go at something new because there's entertainment there and that's part of what we enjoy, or if you have something that you can actually give people. So if there is a tool or a product behind it of actual value, I think they're forgiving, and it does stick in people's minds as well. So I would always, you know, I always think about what is the value in whatever we're putting out there, whether it's a multi-billion-dollar advertisement or whether it's just something cheap and cheerful. As long as there's some sort of value exchange for the person who's receiving it, I think that's really important.
Great, thank you. So I have another question just came in on WhatsApp. I think they were struggling with the Q&A panel a little bit. So the question is, this is from Michael. Online campaigns can go viral and gain support successfully, but sometimes will also receive some unexpected negative comments. What kind of risks should companies be aware of? Who wants to take this? How do you handle negative fallout when you put a video out there in the world? Has anyone experienced negative fallout? Adrian?
Let me just talk in general. I mean, I think there's you know, I think some of the biggest risks is basically when you do live, right? So live, you can't edit it out. You've said something, you've done something that could be, you know, good or bad. And I think there's a few things that typically sparks this, and you know, obvious things such as issues such as politics, religion, you know, and some things that you think are humorous. I think you know, Penny showing us an example of that. And those sort of things are quite common, I think. So you know, your brand needs to be prepared with a crisis management in place for some of these activities. and having good guidelines. So I think, in the case of, for example, like I had with Pure, they have guidelines. Guidelines of what you can and cannot do for a trainer, because you have 50 different trainers doing different things all the time. You cannot control that. So I think, making sure that you don't set yourself up for incorrect things. So there's a lot of liabilities, and I think Hong Kong probably a bit better. But if you're in the US, if you instructed someone to do something and it doesn't work out the right way, then you get sued. So those are the things that you need to be careful. In the case of fitness, it's like if you've instructed someone to do a particular move and they break their back, what are you gonna do, right? So I think those are some of the issues. The issues I've encountered to be political, in particular Chinese political issues. Several years ago when I was in the sports brand, saying the wrong number. A number has different meanings in Chinese, which can spark people. So, I think those are examples where we had to deal with that. The hardest thing is for a brand is probably to wait for it to blow over, because in some cases where the more you say, the worse it gets. So I think you need to assess depending on the situation, in particular sensitive topics like that. There's some things you do need to address, and maybe you do need to put the consumer back in the right spot. So, I think ideally to take them offline if possible.
Yeah, I think it is about having the appropriate triage procedures, right? So understanding what sort of risks you should respond to. And sometimes I think people do have short memories. So
yeah. And I think the other thing is the main risk. The other ones that come to mind for me is when I use people in videos. Those people have different affiliations which you're not aware of, and that one you can never find out beforehand. And what do? You have to recover.
I think as well, what's been interesting, sort of in a lot of brands are just even getting called out for sort of being disingenuous, and that point around, and this may be beyond all of our pay grades, but ensuring diversity in who's creating that content and who's representing that brand as well. So you don't want a monocultural representation or a big disconnect between who's coming up with those communications and who they're representing for. And again, if you think about Bupa, and Penny would, even maybe be able to speak about this, about sort of respecting the notion of motherhood and not reducing it to, say, stereotypes, which might then, not hit as well in the market or get called out in the right way. So I think sometimes as well, it's really great that as consumers, we now have the opportunity to respond and sort of say to brands, you're a bit behind the times or how we see ourselves, or you're not sort of authentically representing us. So catch up. And I think, in that big cut that I sort of showed of every COVID ad looks the same, that's too often as well when things live in ad world and they don't live in the real world. So I think it's an exciting, hopefully slightly changing time in our industry to ensure that we're getting diversification of all sorts of voices being both decision makers and in the room for creation of assets and campaigns.
Yeah. And actually, I want to also hear from Ken, if possible, because I know that, within the local context, oftentimes we're subject to a lot of different sensitivities when we're putting a campaign out there. From a local perspective, for example, what are some of the things that we should be aware of when it comes to taking risks?
Yeah, there are indeed lots of things we have to be aware of. I think as the market as well, no matter you're a creative agency or no matter you're the client side, we have to keep ourselves to be really updated about what's the sensitivity in the market. I mean, what's something good or what's something bad the people are thinking, what's the too political sensitive. I mean, since every day, especially in Hong Kong, the talking points keep changing. And if your brand doesn't really understand your client or understand the mass fast enough or right enough, then you will probably you touch some landmarks. But as what I said, what I mentioned in my deck, I think as long as the brand is really speaking from their heart, if they're really, for example, like if you're a playful brand, you will even you make a joke of something, maybe the the audience will still think that, oh, that's okay, because you are like that. You were like that even before the pandemic. But if you are suddenly changing your way you speak, changing the way your brand tone, it will just sounds like you are taking advantage from the pandemic. You are taking advantage from what's happening. That's make people feel sad and feel bad to your brand. So I think be authentic and speaking out from your brand is really important, and that handle the can handle all the risk or just prevent the bad thing happens.
That's so true. Authenticity is so important.
Yeah.
So with that, and before I hand everybody back to Alvina, I just want to say a huge thanks to our prestigious panel of speakers. You guys have taught us a lot today. That was incredibly interesting and fascinating. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So Alvina, I'm going to pass back to you.
Thank you, David. I think it was lovely. Sorry.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Sorry, I need to mute because of the echoing. So yes, after all these wonderful tips on how to everyone can produce great videos, the team has actually compiled a video survival guide for everyone to download. The link is here and also shared in the Q&A and the chat room, so please download and feel free. It's very brief, just for 3 pages, mainly just to help everyone to keep in mind how to do good videos during this time. And other than the downloading, we also have a survey that we wish everyone can help fill up to help us keep on improving. The link is also in the chat room as well. And after all this wonderful sharing, we also have more exciting events coming up. The next big one will be Data 360. It's actually the first IAB certificate course that we're bringing in from the US. It will be this Saturday. It will be an 1-day online course sharing how to build a data-centric organization. So go through from data collection, activation, processing, and also control. So please register. It's only $150 for 8 hours of training. It's really a good deal because we hope more people can learn about data and do better in digital marketing, especially during the time of COVID-19. And other than this, for our August webinar, we're actually collaborating with Hong Kong TDC to host a Marketing Pulse webinar on the topic of 5G in marketing business case sharing. And we have speakers coming from hardware, telecom, apps, and also cloud solutions. So very prominent speakers sharing here on 18th of August, and it'll be in Cantonese though. So please go to our Facebook page or our LinkedIn page for more registration information. And the last but not least of our event, we are also launching a certificate courses with Hong Kong New Space. It'll be a 30 hours part-time course on the topic of media buy, sell, and also media planning. So it'd be perfect for people who are interested to explore in this area of digital marketing or digital media. So more information on our website as well. So here, previously we were actually going to host the event at the desk, and we will have a small video to share.
So, you're planning an event, and it's a big deal. You want your event to stand out because media...
Oh, you just need to unmute my computer first.
So, you're planning, and it's a big deal. You want your event to stand out because mediocre doesn't cut it. You need it to be above average. Well, worry no more, because the desk presents to you 4 tips to planning a really, really, really great event. Tip 1, find a space that is multifunctional. Find a multifunctional space to create the event you desire. Why? That's because you need options in your event program. Also, great to be able to do last-minute add-ons for your event to make sure your guests are forever happy. Perfect. Tip 2, make sure the event is in the heart of action. Honestly, most people won't go to an event in Yinlong. Get real. Try Causeway Bay or even Saiwan. A 5-minute walk from the MTR is a bonus. Tip 3, a flexible space means a flexible mind. You want a space that acts like a blank canvas so you can be the Picasso of your event. Find a space that does not restrain you from doing exactly what you envision. Don't let a piece of unmovable furniture block you from achieving your dreams of creating the best event ever. Tip 4, great events usually have unparalleled ambience. Give your guests a choice. Indoor, outdoor, upstairs, downstairs, noisy, quiet, crowded, spacious, corner, center, comfort, fun. Remember, unparalleled ambience is key. So, here are your 4 tips to planning a really, really, really great event. Good luck.
So the desk has got the location in Admiralty, Causeway Bay, Shangwan, and Saiwan, and the new one will be in Central Lan Kwai Fong, California Tower. So when the situation gets better, I think that this will be a great place for physical event, bring everyone together, stay well and safe. So that's the end for today's presentation. So thank you very much for joining. So if there's anything, please feel free to contact me by mobile, email, or just go to our Facebook and LinkedIn page. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. So if nothing else from the speakers, so once again, thank you for joining us, and stay safe and healthy. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Avina. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.